Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of WandaVision. A great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, we're picking up with Wanda, and I love, obviously, they're going with the Modern Family kind of office, and I think Parks and Rec does it as well. The whole, like, oh, you're talking to a camera type of situation, aesthetic, and I love her just waking up in bed and just being like, we all kind of get a little afraid and angry sometimes, and we kind of expand the hex that is extend the boundaries of the reality we created, right? And then she's just kind of like thinking about it, covering herself with her cover and everything. And I thought that was so interesting. This is actually like I think it's interesting how they do this, because obviously it's been a thing the entire show, but I feel like this is really the episode where, like, for one, Wanda's breaking down in many different forms. Like, she's just so like bleh. She's even at one point telling the kids, everything is me. Like, you guys, I'm the mom. I'm your mom. I'm supposed to have all the answers, right? You come to me because I have all the answers, right? She's like, I don't have the only answers. So he's like, you can come to your own conclusions, but she's like, for her, it's like, it's all meaningless. It's like, and obviously her reality is starting to crack around her. It already started cracking before, but not to this extent. It's because I think Wanda's in this, I don't know whether it's necessarily like just everything that's going down, or maybe expanding the hex is actually maybe like a representation of her mind. Like, maybe the more she flexes her powers, the more it makes her mind deteriorate. Like, I don't know. Because as we saw, like, last episode, obviously, like, if she's only usually focusing on one chunk of the town at any point in time, and then, like, the outside boundaries, like the outer edges of the town, no one's doing anything. I forgot who I was listening to, but someone was kind of suggesting those people are still under her power because they're not moving. I don't know whether that's just like an automatic thing of the hex, or maybe that's just like her controlling them not to move. But, that is just, like I said, that's an interesting thing. So, like, all that processing power, but it's like she's flexing even more processing power now that she's expanded the boundaries, and maybe that's playing a role. Or maybe it's just her mental state is just unraveling naturally, just because for her, it's like, I don't understand everything, because she's confused about everything. It's like the whole Pietro situation, because they're like, oh, where's Uncle P? It's like, no, that's not your uncle. It's like, then who was he? Where's Dad? It's like, well, if your dad didn't want it to be here, he would be here. If your dad wants to leave, he can leave whenever he wants to, or something like that. She said something like that. I'm like, which is ironic, because he tried to leave and literally couldn't. So I guess that's supposed to be the line behind that. But at the same time, obviously there's a whole thing when she's fixing milk too, and obviously, like, the milk carton keeps shifting. It goes from like a jug to like it just constantly changing. And she's like, I don't know what that's all about. She's like, maybe it's the case of the money. It's like, am I right? And it's just like, what? I even love that, like, the entire intro is just like Wanda. And I guess that's kind of like supposed to be the thing of, like, because a part of this episode too, I don't talk about that enough. I should. This episode's commercial got me, because I was like, oh, that's kind of a dark commercial, yet that's kind of like any medical commercial about, like, I'll take this drug, it'll help you deal with, coming to terms with your truth, or something like that. The world doesn't revolve around you. Or does it? Because it'll make you confront feel your feelings, live with your truth, and may lead to more depression. And it's like, wow, that's interesting. The whole Nexus situation. So, that was fascinating in its own right. I do love the whole Vision and Darcy situation. Like, Vision waking up and seeing, obviously, like, the circus situation, but also running into Darcy. Hey, he's like, you and me, we locked eyes. Like, there was an understanding. She's like, whoa, dude, I'm not going to date you. He's like, no. Which I also thought was interesting, that Darcy's the escape artist. I was like, that's fascinating. I guess because, like, I guess that's setting her up to be like, well, she's the one that kind of figured a lot of this stuff out anyway. So it could be that she is the key to, potentially what she did for Vision this episode, kind of explaining everything. Maybe that's kind of another role in this, but maybe she's going to ultimately be the key to basically, like, either not just necessarily figuring everything out, but kind of putting it into everything. Maybe not. But, I love it, because I was wondering, like, I was like, well, you're able to restore other people's memories, so he had her look that way, restored her memory. She's like, hi, I'm Darcy, and he's like, you got me, give me answers, and it's like, yep, they get in a truck and they bail, which I love that whole situation of her explaining it. He's like, so Wanda killed me. She's like, well, yes, but only at your behest. It's like, and why would I want her to do that? It's like, well, to save the universe, well, half of it. Well, did it work? yeah, until the guy rewound time and then killed you again. So it's like, and even Darcy emphasizing that, because I think that's something I haven't put enough weight on. The fact is, like, I guess I've never really thought about it. It's like, right, she had to kill, like, Vision kept being like, we got to destroy you, got to destroy me, but like, everyone kept being like, find another way, find another way. No one else had to live with doing what she had to do. She killed Vision. She killed a man she loves, you know, and that's bad enough. But then to have Thanos bring him back and then kill him again in front of you, it never crossed my mind to think about, dude, that's the trauma upon trauma of that. You know, just to have the man you love back for an instant just to watch him be killed again. It's super messed up. I mean, considering everything terrible she's been through, it's just one thing after another. But that moment in Infinity War, I guess it just never correlated in my head of just like, man, that moment's super effed up when you think about it. Like I said, I never really processed it. And I just thought that was so fascinating. Like, I knew it was effed up. I think at the time, like, both times I watched, I'm just caught up in a moment of like, damn, Wanda having to do this, but then Thanos getting, the Infinity Stone from Vision anyway. But I didn't think about the layers and the levels of just having to be the one that killed him. I think I thought about it, but it didn't resonate with just the layers of like, oh, also having him brought back in an instant just to lose him again, you know? So, which now Vision's kind of got a better understanding of their circumstances. It's like, for him, it's like, but yeah, it still feels weird because it's like this happened to me and Wanda remembers it all. But for me, it's like hearing about someone else's life, you know? But Darcy's like, I've been watching WandaVision the past week, and, you know, what you two have is real. You two love each other. You two belong together, you know? And I think that probably makes him feel at least a little bit more at ease, because it makes him kind of realize, like, oh, everything Wanda's done is because she loves him, and, you know, all the trauma that she's been through, that she wanted to build this perfect life and everything, you know? So I think it gave, like, obviously he was a little like adversarial towards Wanda, because it's like, we need to save all these people from Wanda. But now he realizes, like, oh, like, I think now he's kind of seeing like, oh, Wanda needs saving just as much as anyone else here in Westview. I think Darcy helped give him that perspective. I mean, he probably already had it, but I think it cleared the view on that a little bit more for him, I believe. Kind of realizing like, oh, Wanda's just as much of a victim as this whole thing of, you know, life and circumstance. You know, life can be hard, and like, you know, I mean, even then he's still getting the clip notes. What I even thought was interesting too is that Darcy also pointed out, like, oh, like, he was like, oh, so I used to be this computer system named Jarvis, and then I was born from the body of Ultron. It's like, and Darcy's like, yep, and he's like, well, what does that make me now? You know, big question. You know, loss of, you know. I mean, and it's not just Vision. I think Wanda's trying to figure out who she is and she's trying to figure everything out on her own right, in her own right. I talked about this before. Obviously the conversation hasn't led there, but it's also the thing of like, don't forget your dad, Tony's dead. It's like, yeah, like I brought it up before. I thought that was such a fascinating thing of like, right, you still don't know the man who made you is going to. Once again, even if you didn't like, don't remember everything prior to Westview, that's also just another extra thing that's going to hit him potentially later on of like, I mean, if they'll even tackle that. It's just I personally include that. I know someone had questioned me last week of like, why I even bother bringing it up, because I thought it was such a fascinating thing to think about, like, right, not, you know, Wanda, who's dealing with her own trauma of like what she's lost. Vision doesn't remember what he's lost. I mean, he wasn't there to even experience the loss because Tony died years after he did. Because also these are still fresh enough wounds, even for Wanda, because Vision said himself, like, it's only been a couple weeks since Endgame. And even then, it's like, for everyone that came back, it's like, wait, what? It's been moments. So for her, at the end of Endgame, she literally, for her, it hasn't been 5 years since she lost Vision. For her, it's been a couple weeks since she lost Vision. And I think that's something to kind of keep in mind about it. Like, why this trauma hits even harder. It's not like she's had all these years to process it. It's like, wait, it's been 5 years. Wait, Vision's still dead. Wait, what? They're taking his body. They're experimenting on it. Like, you know, maybe someone pushed her to do that. Maybe that wasn't Wanda to begin with. That's still been a debate amongst people whether or not when the video that Hayward showed Monica and them is like, was that actually Wanda? Was that someone else? You know, so you have Agnes coming over to pick up the kids. It's like, oh, Agnes, you showed up at just the right time. I need you to take the kids. She just wants to be by herself right now. But they're like, why can't we stay here? Someone needs to take care of you, Mom. And it's like, honestly, her mom's not in the best state right now. But I guess it's like I just need a break. And what I also thought was interesting is like, I've never watched a lot of The Office. I've seen some here and there. I don't think I've seen any Parks and Rec except for some tiny bits. But I've seen quite a bit of Modern Family. The interviewer talking, the person behind the camera talking, never happens, at least to my knowledge. So if you've seen all of the show, all three of those shows, or at least one of them all the way through, and that has come up, do let me know. But I just from the bits of Modern Family I'd never seen that come up. But so it's like, she's like, why is this happening? And so the interviewer was like, you think it's because it's what you deserve? And then like she was like almost looking like, wait, what the hell did you just say? She's like, you're not supposed to talk. It's like that kind of broke right there. Because I also love that, like, the nonsensical element of it, because it's also like, wait, because Vision, when he's in the truck, like, all of a sudden, like, the truck is behind him and he's sitting in a chair talking to an ear. Because even later on, he's like, what the hell am I doing? I got to get home. Why am I even sitting here talking to you? Pulling off the mic and almost hitting, like, the boom mic or whatever that was above him, too. I love that. Because I also love that, like, because him being like, oh yeah, Wanda's actually doing whatever she can to prevent us from getting home. Question is, was it really Wanda? Maybe, maybe not. It's like a whole bunch of red lights, then construction, and then all of a sudden a whole bunch of kids walk by and Darcy's like, what's next? Kids, what's next? Puppies? You know, I love that. And then Vision just kind of like phases out and goes, and Darcy's like, you know what? I'll meet you there. It's like, I love that, because it's like, what's the point of driving? You can fly there, Vision. But I guess that's kind of, you know, it gave us some of the shenanigans in between them. But I did love Vision being like, about the whole thing, looking towards the camera and everything and being like, I'm not amused. But nevertheless, at the same time, we had the whole situation where Hayward is whatever they've got planned. He's moving forward with it. And Monica and Jimmy, because they end up discovering that Hayward's plan was to bring Vision back. So that's why he was keeping tabs on Vision, because it's like trying to understand, like, okay, how did Wanda managed to do something we weren't able to do? How was she able to do that? Well, don't know. Because even Darcy was talking that with Vision, like, I just assumed she flipped the switch and just turned you back on, but it's like how he's out and about and alive and stuff. Even, you know, doesn't even, that was her guess at the time, but even then she still doesn't know. But Monica and Jimmy meet up with her pal. I'm sure is that supposed to be someone we know from the MCU, or is that, because like everyone debated on who it was going to be. I have no idea who that character is. That might be someone, I feel like if that's not a deep comic cut or just a comic cut in general, I feel like that might be someone from the MCU we're supposed to know. Because it's like, oh, you know my mom. Because I'm trying to think, was she, I don't think we met her in Captain Marvel. To be fair, I haven't watched Captain Marvel since it originally came out in theaters, so I still have to go back at some point in time and rewatch it in Endgame and Far From Home. But I was like, are we supposed to know? But she knows who Maria is, and it's almost like she's not the only, like, yeah, we're, what was she was saying? She was kind of like, she's not the only, basically, like, she's not the only one that's got, that's loyal to not just Maria, but also to Monica. I don't know whether she was kind of referencing other people, or was she kind of specifically referencing kind of like Carol in that department. I don't know. But the rover, the vehicle that Monica was trying to like talk about got designed, so she's locked and loaded, ready to go in there, to try and save Darcy and everyone. But the vehicle doesn't go. I was actually surprised. I was like, all right, it's supposed to be smooth sailing, and just as she's about to go in, it blocks her. I mean, probably if this was before Wanda came out and went back in, it probably would have been fine. But when she came back out, she like strengthened or like altered it. So, but the moment like Monica tried to push through, the vehicle wouldn't go. And then it kind of rolling up a little bit, like lifting up like that was kind of crazy. And then Monica jumping out in time. It looked like almost, maybe she got lucky, but it looked like someone had like touched her foot. But luckily, and then it spits the vehicle back. It transformed like half the vehicle and then just flipped it. But Monica's like, I can go through. My DNA's already been changed. I've been through twice, both in and out. And Jimmy was like, no, don't. And Monica pushes through. Now, how crazy and trippy that look was awesome, but also like what it necessarily did to Monica. We know it altered her DNA for a third time. what that necessarily did to her, we don't know. Because in that moment, it looks like you see all these different versions of Monica as she's pushing through. So I don't know whether it's supposed to be that Barrier trying to rewrite her, but be unsuccessful because her DNA was rewritten so many times. Like, maybe she's kind of fighting and pushing through being rewritten. Because like some of the versions you see is like Monica, like when I think. Because part of me wonder, was it kind of like almost like a space-time continuum type of thing, in the sense that like these are different versions of Monica. Like there was like at one point I think you might have seen like her as Geraldine, but then it was also, I think it's more so like all the different version of herself and everything she's carrying, like the version of herself that's dealing with her mom's death, the one that's dealing with all the pain from just, being inside of Westview. Like it seemed like all these different versions of Monica. And it's just like, I think it's trying to decide like which part of her, but I think whatever's rewritten in her DNA fights back into the point, like every version of her that's trying to split apart comes back as one. So I don't know how to necessarily like translate that into what that power is, but her eyes start glowing blue because of it. So I'm wondering, is it a thing of like, she like almost has some immunity to being rewritten now? Like maybe that's kind of what her power. It makes you wonder, like, because in the comic books, I only know this because I've heard other people talk about it, Monica becomes a hero in her own right, but she also becomes the next Captain Marvel. So that makes me wonder, like, could Carol have gotten through it without an issue? I mean, because it also, her powers, the way they operate, like, Wanda's powers come from an Infinity Stone, so does Carol's. Which also makes me wonder, does that now technically mean that Monica's powers kind of technically come from an Infinity Stone since they came from Wanda's? So would it kind of be in the same vein? I don't know. But the moment she popped through, like her vision had altered the way she was seeing the world. I'm like, what is she like? Is she picking up on like certain like, because isn't her like superhero name like Photon or something like that? So I was like wondering, is she picking up like the way things were kind of like vibrate? It was almost like she was seeing like waves, like, like something like electro waves or something like that. I wonder if it was something of that nature. But it didn't, like, she was kind of just shaking it off and kind of got her normal vision back. At the same time, there's other moving pieces and parts to this whole thing, because you had Agnes with the boys and everything. What I thought was kind of fascinating was like, one of the twins is like, hey, I like it here. It's quiet. And he was like, you're quiet, Agnes. Quiet on the inside. And I was like, honestly, that was kind of a creepy line. I was like, oh, that's a little disturbing. That's one of those things you'd see like, oh, a kid in like a demonic possession movie say some shit like that. You're like, what? And even Agnes meanwhile was like, what? I think that should have been the first time, that line. But also it's like, is our mom going to be that? It's like, yeah, of course. Your mom's a Superwoman. Yeah. Yeah. Ralph says that I have a tendency to sugarcoat things. But I was like, okay, that's interesting. Then we had like Monica and Wanda. As Wanda's powers continue to spiral, things are just changing and she can't control it. But it's like, you have Monica showing up and Wanda trying to talk to her, but Wanda doesn't want to listen. It's like, you're full of lies. You're just lied to me. It's like Pietro. She's like, we had nothing to do with that. I don't know what that is. And it's kind of lifting her in the air and tries to slam her down. But luckily Monica's powers activated. She stopped herself. And it's like, I've never lied to you. All I've ever done is try to tell you the truth of the matter, And it's like, the way people see you, like, basically it was like, Hayward, don't give them the excuse to treat you like you're some kind of, don't let them make you the villain. And she's like, but what if I already am? Because Monica's like, I get it, I've lost someone very important to me too. And but for her, it's like, I'm holding on to that pain, because that pain and all that I'm going through, it's my truth. It might not be the best, it might not be something good, but it's still mine. Kind of don't run away from that pain. That pain is yours. It's something only you can understand. It's yours, and kind of don't let that be taken away from you, because that pain will eventually help you heal. Because once again, it's a line I always go back to. It's in the Kingdom Hearts games. Pain. It's a weird thing to say, but pain is actually a good thing, because hurt is a good thing to have in your heart, because that meant something mattered to you. If you're hurting over losing something, then that means it was important. It mattered, So don't kind of run away from the hurt, because hurt is an important part of the healing process, Obviously, we see how Wanda is you can't even call it the healing process because she's still in denial about everything. She's running from everything. Doesn't help when Agnes pop out. I was like, whoa, I think you need to leave. And it's like, oh, Agnes showing up what she did. I was like, yeah, that looks super, super suspicious. But then like she brings her in. She's like, oh, like you want something? I'll fix something. And then you have Wanda looking around. It's like, where are the boys? Oh, I think they're in the basement playing. And then she goes down there and it's like, what? And then there's like a spell book. I was like, okay, here we go. And she's like, hey, I'm Agatha Harkness. Nice to finally meet you, you know? And it's like, okay. Which is also, I think in so many different levels, it's interesting. For one, I love that she gets her own little theme song, like, what was it? It was Agatha all along. And then we just get that, like, every little thing that's ever gone wrong, we get her, because her view on things. Even that final one was super messed up. And it's like the little stinger on the end. Also, I'm the one who killed Sparky too. And then immediate witch cackle / maniacal laugh. I was like, oh, that's super dark for that to be the stinger at the end of that. Because also, like I said, they make it like a playful joke. Like, haha, I'm the villain. I'm the one behind everything. Oh, sneaky, like they're being playful with it. But then adding that dark note at the end, and I killed Sparky too, maniacal laugh. It's just like, I was like, that's so effed up, dark and twisted. I love it. Because some people had theorized that she was the one that actually killed Sparky, that was kind of like something she was doing. Like that's my thing about it. I went into this show suspicious of Agnes because a lot of people were thinking like, oh, they had a feeling of who she potentially was going to be. Turns out a lot of people were right. But I won't lie to you. I flip-flopped a lot because I was like, maybe Agnes is behind this. Maybe she's not. Once again, do you want me to take it from the top line from like, what was that, episode 5? That threw me for a loop because you certain things about her, she seemed like she was a victim, especially when she was with Herb and was like, no, stop. Like, she played it so well. Like, so it made me flip-flop being like, oh, maybe Agnes isn't the one behind this. Like, a lot of, because it could have just been the MCU changing things because they've changed things from the comic books. So I was like, oh, maybe that's just something they changed. Maybe they put her in here to be a red herring, but it's like, no. I mean, granted, there still might be more to it. Because some people have even thrown out the theory thinking that her husband, Ralph, is Mephisto. Might technically be the case. Because some people are even thinking like, oh, Pietro was actually Mephisto in disguise. But it's like, no, that whole thing was Agatha doing that. So maybe there is no Mephisto at all. Or maybe this could lead to that. Maybe this could be like a early setup to that. I don't know. I'm not well versed in the comic book. So a lot of people are jumping at leading to like, oh, this could be a wink and nod to Mephisto. Some of the stuff that Pietro said last episode, that kind of went over my head. I didn't catch it. Sorry, but it's just like, I didn't pick up on a lot of like the wink, wink, nudge, nudge, demon spawn, like stuff like that. I didn't catch up on it last episode until like I started listening to other people bring it up. I was like, oh, that's interesting. It never crossed my mind, I don't have like it didn't even correlate in my head because I'm not actively thinking of Mephisto in the back of my head. I'm only aware of Mephisto because I've heard people talk about it, and that's like the running theory. I don't search all over the interweb of like, what's everyone's theory? It's like I watch certain shows where people talk about, share their thoughts about things, and that's about it. Regardless, I think this is just an interesting development, though. Now it's like, okay, we got 2 episodes left, and we're kind of at this point, now Agatha has felt the need to now reveal herself. I think she's like, you're at the breaking point now, Wanda, and you're at that beautiful spot where I need you. I need you at your most vulnerable, because maybe if Wanda's kind of vulnerable like this, she's not at her full strength, just because maybe flexing the hex kind of drained her a little bit more. She's not, like I said, mentally all there, so maybe there's some element to that. But what this also presents, and I think it's fascinating, is we are introducing more magic to this universe. Because at this point in time, it's a combination of fantasy and science fiction. I feel like a lot of this universe has been science fiction. Some of it kind of borderline in magic. The Asgardians, but once again, they kind of get labeled as aliens in certain regards rather than actual Asgard gods that they are. So that's a whole thing. But the only real magic that's really popped up so far has been Doctor Strange. So for us to find out, like, it makes you wonder, like, so what's Agnes's deal? Like, has she been around the entire time as a witch? Is she somehow tied to, like, because like the sorcerers and stuff like that, does she kind of correlate in that, or is she just kind of a situation on her own? Because obviously, like, maybe in this universe they're going to suggest like, oh, the Salem witch trials and stuff happened because there have been real witches in this universe, they've just been hiding out, which makes you wonder, like, maybe do you think the witches and sorcerers, like, like all Doctor Strange folk, like Like, have they ever had beef with the witches? Have the witches stayed hidden the entire time? You would think, you know, maybe that's how Doctor Strange gets folded into this, because of like, whoa, there's some like magic spawning out of there. Because there's certain storylines at the end of season 1. It was like, I mean, not season 1, but Doctor Strange one about like, oh, getting rid of any other sorcerers out there. And once again, if they technically count Agatha as one of those, like I said, whether she's just kind of an entity all on her own. Like, is she the only witch that's left? Is she the last of her kind? Is she the only... I'm curious to dive into her history. Maybe we'll get a look into that next episode. I'd really like to understand like who she is, and like also a big question is why? For what purpose? Is it just to mess with Wanda? Are you trying to get Wanda stronger and stronger so you can take her powers for yourself? Is this kind of like almost like a low-key mischief type of thing of like, oh, I'm doing it for essentially shits and giggles? It just seems too orchestrated for that to be the case. And I brought it up earlier. Was it actually Wanda who broke Vision out, or was that Agatha causing mayhem to be like, oh, like she needs a fight on, like, is she trying to cause a stir between Hayward and all of this? Like, maybe she's in a situation where maybe she set Hayward on his path. Like, maybe it's that type of thing of like she disguised herself as someone else and she manipulated Hayward to get where they are right now. And now she's manipulating Wanda so that this big climactic battle would happen potentially. I don't know. Like I said, we don't know her reasoning for doing this. Maybe it's for some... I mean, maybe these are ingredients and steps necessary for a big, powerful spell that she couldn't do on her own. It's like, but who's in there? Maybe getting to Doctor Strange isn't the easiest thing. Or maybe it's specifically Wanda's abilities. And not only is it from an Infinity Stone, but also her powers are very similar to magic. Maybe that's it. A lot of speculation on my part. I have no idea where this potentially will go, but I'm really interested to see where we go. Like I said, 2 more episodes left. It's going to be interesting to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. Also, where are the twins at? Like, were they made to disappear? Were they, I'm sure they have their own part to play in this. I'm sure that's why Agnes always made sure to kind of stick close to them and stuff like that. Regardless, I'm going to shut my mouth now. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.